section 7, changing one portion from special use to variance. With the zoning administrator, talk about this a little bit.
It's Article 25. It is so we had in there, it's going to be part of zoning appeals as a special use. It would be a variance.
We don't have a definition for special use.
Well, it wouldn't be a special use.
Yeah.
It would be a variance because it's a distance type thing. And the appeals board would do that versus the planning commission.
That's correct.
So it's just,
I see this more as a clerical thing, fixing the record. I make a motion to approve.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will now open the public hearing on that topic. Is anyone here to talk about that topic? It's 7:27 p.m. Okay, I don't see anyone, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. That's 7:27 whatever seconds. Okay. Now, Steve.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the change of language in Article 25, Section 3 sign standards, subsection 7, from the words special use to the word variance.
And the second? Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. The motion is to approve the proposed change to Article 25, Section 3, sign standards, subsection 7 for special use to variance.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Next on our agenda is the temporary amendment to Article 30 of the Jackson County zoning regulations allowing the 24-month moratorium on commercial wind energy applications and projects. Does staff have anything report? There isn't anything else? We'll go ahead then now at 7:29, open the required public hearing on this topic. I want to remind everyone that I'm trying to allow time for the senators to sufficient time for the senators to speak. If anyone did have any real quick comments on those moratorium on clean energy, we need to shorten time to 30 seconds. Did you have something to say to the secretary? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I'm sorry, thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for.
ran, sorry, I have this, but it's a complete wind competition hosted by the United States Department of Energy. As a team, we like to make people aware in K-State and around Kansas of what wind-powered does for us in lives. Just a few quick footnotes. We developed wind farms from the ground up for this competition as well as wind turbines. With this in mind, we believe that Jackson County current proposal of a wind farm moratorium could prove a detrimental effort to reduce the impacts of climate change and kill job opportunities for people like me and people on my team, as well as people with climate change and its impacts on us, like sea level rising, increased weather, those sorts of things, as well as threats to biodiversity, is something I care very deeply about, and I feel like my generation also cares very deeply about. And by putting a moratorium on the development of wind farms, it decreases the availability of research and more information of that. And energy generation and industry demands are one of the largest contributors towards climate change, and renewable energy is a great way to reverse that.
My name is Macy Sexton. I'm also a student at Kansas State University where I study electrical engineering and power systems. And I've developed a passion in my background and my time here for renewable energy and sustainable grid. I want to work in renewable energy policy creation, and I will be attending graduate school in the fall to continue my work on renewable energy systems. As I look for graduate schools, I've been spending a lot of time reflecting on the opportunities I've received at Kansas State University. And I originally did not expect to stay in Kansas for graduate school. But the opportunity to be right in the heart of wind energy production and focus heavily on issues of grid sustainability is becoming increasingly difficult to pass up. Renewable energy projects in Kansas provide stable careers for my generation that allow us to work on renewable energy systems, but also bring economic opportunity, jobs, and a wide range of fields, both to graduates and technical workers in their communities. And in my experience, renewable energy groups and wind farm groups, they want to hire Kansas grads. They love hiring people out of Kansas, and by applying for jobs and applying for conservation systems, I've really seen this. They view me from Kansas as a tremendous asset because we have this sort of environment where we see these wind farms go up, we're in the communities where this happens often, and we have a major edge over most of the country in wind development. We should take pride in the fact that we rank fourth in wind energy development. We should also take pride in the opportunities that these farms bring. High-paying jobs for graduates looking to stay in Kansas. My students and my peers, they want to stay here. A lot of them are actively planning their full-time career search to the West because this is where the interesting wind generation happens. And I want to keep it that way. I urge us to keep it that way. We want to stay here and we want to work in wind. Kansas is a leader in renewable energy, and I hope that when I graduate, I can continue to take advantage of the opportunities that exist here. And as you evaluate this decision for a wind farm moratorium, I'd ask that you consider the impact that the decision has on the next generation and the future of wind in Kansas. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Thank you.
My name is Anna Harper, and I'm against wind in Jackson County. I'm not even along here. I think that they kill bees, and I think that they affect every single farmer in this area. They do not just affect the person who's in the home. I think that they should actually be banned, but if you don't do that, I would please ask that you please don't work on the materials on to get banned. I live on a small town, and we may want to be affected by the argument of the right of justice.
Anyone else? Okay. Yes.
I want to agree with her, but I also want to say, you talk about the environment and stuff. There are graveyards from these windmills because they don't break down, they don't biodegrade, and they are sitting there forever and ever and ever. So don't preach to us as farmers and people that are on the land. We're the ones that take care of our land. We're the ones that care about our waterways and I am all for wind energy on a private basis. I am all for solar energy on a private basis. But not for Jackson County.
Ma'am, thank you. Can you state your name for the
My
record?
name's Elizabeth Kraft, and I'm from here in Jackson County.
I'm Shauna Fox. I'm a resident of Jackson County for 18 years. I also grew up in
Sir.
Marshall County.
Does that microphone work? Because half of us can't hear what's being said. Does it work at all? Is there any way you can get a mic? So we can hear what's being said? I'm sorry, I'm pretty hard of hearing, and I know my wife's struggling too. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I brought a lot of pictures tonight, but since I'm only limited to like a minute or so, when she brought up the cemeteries, if you go to Tabor Cemetery in Republic, Kansas, there's 461,000 acres in Republic, Canada. This turbine is 1,015 feet away from that cemetery. You will have no control over that if you don't have setbacks. How would you like to go to the cemetery and look at that? St. George Cemetery in Republic County. This turbine is 760 feet away. It's heartbreaking to see this. Can you imagine attending a burial of a loved one, having to see the monstrosity while listening to the hum of it, along with the swish noise of the blades? They rotate, and depending on the time of the burial, potentially see the shadow flicker across the casket that's being lowered into the ground. What do you think about this when you're putting these, whatever your flaws are that you're gonna do? There's also a $1.5 million house that just went up in Marshall County. They put the transmission line across there, 780 feet away from their house. That's what it looks like. When NextEra is done, here's your trash. The Marshall County landfill will not take it because it's too much. It would fill the landfills. What are you gonna do with it? Go talk to the landowners that are now living in a wind farm before you make this decision. You need to hear from the families that are actually living in a wind farm day after day. Take a drive during the day to see the flicker on Highway 99. And at night to see the blinking lights on Highway 99 going north from Blaine to Frankfurt. But keep in mind, the ones that have signed a contract with the wind farm cannot legally complain due to the contract they signed. Tonight, after you shut off that last light at your house, step outside, enjoy the quiet, look at the night sky and count the stars. Look at your neighbor's house and pray that NextEra and the current county commissioners do not break up your family and friendships like this happened in Marshall County. Think about your kids, your grandkids, and your great-grandkids enjoying what you're seeing outside right now. Because in Marshall County, you can no longer step outside and enjoy that quiet. All you hear is that bush. So I hope these pictures and information will help you in making important decisions you have ahead of you. If you need more pictures or information, please don't hesitate to contact me. The Wind Farm Company has torn the community of Marshall County apart and will do the same thing here.
Anyone else wish to speak on this issue? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:39 p.m. Okay, we have before us again, the temporary amendment of Article 30 regarding extending the wedding moratorium for another months.
Mr. Chairman, I suppose they'll have a different resolution number assigned since this is a renewal of an active moratorium that we currently have as of January 17th of 2023. It's a resolution establishing a moratorium on commercial wind energy projects in Jackson County, Kansas, and I move to approve it as initially submitted.
spoke, but for or against, it's appreciated. Even though it didn't go the way you guys obviously wanted it to go, thank you for coming up and talking. It takes a lot of guts to come up and talk to a room full of strangers you've never met before. You're passionate about what you believe in, and that's great. So thank you for that.
Okay, next on our agenda is Senator Mike Thompson. Just to let everyone know, there is an 8 o'clock meeting in this room for the appeals board. So I just want everyone to know kind of our somewhat limited timeline. So the floor is yours if you want to talk for 15, 16 minutes. If you want to take questions as part of that, that's up to you.
Yeah, and let me just say that I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come talk. Hopefully I can talk loud enough for everyone to hear. Just to give you a little bit of the background, originally grew up in southeast Kansas, Coffee County, home of Wolf Creek Power Plant. They're dealing with the wind issues down there, and I've got to say I applaud your decision tonight. I've been in well over a dozen counties around this state over the last 5-6 years since I retired as a meteorologist, which I still am basically. I've been a meteorologist for 46, 47 years. But I've been in communities like this who are trying to make the right decision with regard to industrial scale wind and solar. And I think what you're going to hear is that the problems you see with the wind are similar to the solar in a lot of ways. And there's so many things to consider that rushing into this is a big problem, because what you're doing is making a long-term decision for the long-term viability of your county and the ag land that is going to be displaced by these huge things. I may also say that for anyone who's considering a lease, I would highly recommend you hire an independent and competent attorney, and that's just more of a caveat, and I know that's not what you guys deal with, because it is caveat emptor. You can't prevent someone from making a horrible legal mistake, but if you read one of these leases, and I've seen wind leases, I've seen solar leases, there's a lot of similarities. You are essentially signing away your property to the operator, and that means either the wind or the solar operator, and they have total control over your land that you lease to them. They can mortgage your land, you cannot. They can put a lien on your land. And I've had situations with wind, and I'm talking about wind in context of the solar because you're going to see a lot of the same things. There was a wind farm in Kansas that went belly up before it was completed, and there was a lien, a construction lien on that wind farm for over $30 million. So somebody who signs a lease, are they going to be on the hook for this? What's the county going to do? There's so many things, and if you look at the leases that you have the opportunity to, and I realize there are gag orders on these leases, but I've seen a number, they tell you can tell what kind of issues you're going to be dealing with. Substations are going to be put on this land. There might be a cell tower put on your land. All sorts of different things. The battery storage, they say, I find this interesting. It says, owner or operator leases operators for owner's property in order to construct, operate, replace, locate, remove, and maintain one or more battery facilities on owner's property. Trust me, it's going to be a lot more than one. For a 230-acre solar farm, you're going to have hundreds of tractor-trailer-sized batteries. And one of the problems with that is there's a huge fire danger with these things. These lithium-ion batteries tend to overheat very rapidly. It can take 500,000 gallons of water just to contain that fire. You can't put it out with water. And so your firemen in this area, if they don't have the resources, cannot stop that from spreading to other batteries or to turn into a wildfire. So one issue is, do you have enough water in this county to fight the fires required in case you have that type of situation? That's just one of the environmental problems we have. The other thing in this lease, it guarantees they will strip the land of all trees. They will strip the land of any vegetation because you don't want any vegetation growing up around these solar panels because there can be zero obstruction of anything that blocks the sunlight. And there will be an easement around this solar farm, industrial scale farm, because in the lease it requires 360 degree circumference around the industrial scale solar facility and 180 degrees basically from land to land, 180 degrees non-obstruction. If you've ever seen a picture of solar farm, there are no trees growing up in these things. So they're going to have to put herbicide down to prevent plant growth. They'll probably use pesticides as well. So you have to concern yourself with the potential runoff, leaching into the groundwater, what that's going to do to the water supply for Jackson County and the people who live there. They also use galvanized zinc posts on these solar panels, and there's going to be thousands of them. You're talking, what, 6,000 acres, I think, 5,000 or 6,000 acres. Over time, the pH of the soil reacts to the galvanization, and you get leaching of zinc into the soil. So at some point in the distant future, and I'm talking distant future, when they decide to abandon this farm and you have to deal with decommissioning, you may also have to deal with toxic waste products. How much is that going to cost the county? As they said with the wind blades, you cannot recycle, well, you can try to recycle these solar panels, but the cost of recycling is 45 times that of putting it into a landfill. There's going to be a flood of solar panels going into landfills over the next 4 to 6 years nationwide. The costs are going to be enormous. So you're not going to be able to find a place to put these solar panels. And if there's a hailstorm that comes by prematurely, which happened up in Nebraska, these entire solar facilities can be wiped out by hail. Then you have to call in the EPA because there's heavy metals, there's cadmium, there's lead, there's nickel inside these solar panels, there's a lot of glass that you have to deal with. You have to call in the EPA to clean this thing up, and you have to replace those panels. What people who sign these leases don't realize, during that time period, they're not going to get paid. It's not producing any electricity. So the thought that this is a constant Christmas tree that keeps delivering time and time again is absolutely false. The other issue is that this lease can be changed unilaterally at any time by the operator. So the solar farm operator can change the terms of this lease. All he has to do is tell the owner, here's what I'm going to do. The owner has no recourse whatsoever. And in fact, in the very back of the lease, if you read it carefully, you'll notice you waive your trial by jury. So you have virtually no legal recourse. On top of that, these big companies like NextEra hire $1,000 an hour lawyers. I've seen it. I've seen it before my committee. I was chairman of the Utilities Committee in the State Senate. For 2 years, I've served on the Utilities Committee studying these problems statewide. And these smaller communities and people within the communities don't have the money to fight this legally. These big companies like NextEra do. They hire an army of lawyers to deal with it. So this is a big, big problem. I tried to set a standardized regulation for wind and solar in the state for the 2 years when I was chairman. I ran into a lot of problems because of lobbyists, and so the fight goes down to the county level. The people like you who have to decide, how are we going to regulate this? What kind of setbacks are we going to put in place? What kind of environmental issues do we have? Have you considered dust control? Because if you strip the land of all that stuff, you have a lot of wind, and we haven't had rain in a long time. We're in big trouble right now. We're into a very dry pattern. You're going to have all sorts of dust. Also, this degradation of the solar panels. They don't operate and continue to consistently produce the same power from the first year to the last. Each year they lose the ability to produce electricity. So as that electricity generation capacity goes down, the folks who sign the leases get less and less money. The other issue is property tax abatement. Because the state in its infinite wisdom, I say that facetiously, gave 10-year property tax abatements to wind and solar facilities, you're missing out for 10 years on all the property tax on all this ag land that's going to be out of production in perpetuity, because these leases are, as long as these guys want to stay here, they can stay here. And the reason they're doing this is because of federal subsidies. It's not because these things produce appreciable amounts of energy in the country. Solar is subsidized at 302 times nuclear power. It gets $4.1 billion in subsidies. That was in 2022. $4.1 billion in subsidies went to the solar. Wind was just under $1 billion, and nuclear was at 10 million. Look at the disparity. The reason they're putting these solar plants out all across the United States is because it is big business. Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan said he wishes they could get eminent domain powers so they could put these things everywhere, because they realize it is big business for the big banks, these big companies like NextEra, the big law firms. This is not about helping Door County. This is about turning you into an industrial energy playground for big companies. And I've seen this in wind farms all across, not only Kansas, but elsewhere. Once the money dries up from these subsidies, and you don't know what's going to happen if we change administrations in Washington, those subsidies dry up, all of a sudden they could say, hey, we're out, we're bankrupt, sorry. These are LLCs that they do business with these counties. And these limited liability corporations, they file bankruptcy, they're gone. You're left holding the bag, trying to figure out what to do with this giant solar facility in your county. There are a lot of things to consider with regard to regulations. There's air traffic, wind and glare issues. There's the change in the wildlife. I've heard some gentlemen talk about the hunting. You're going to displace wildlife habitat to the tune of 6,000 acres. I did a little calculation how much it would take. Wolf Creek Nuclear Power Plant has a nameplate capacity of 1,200 megawatts, okay? To equal the generation capacity of Wolf Creek, you would need 27 million acres of solar panels, which would be the equivalent of half the state of Kansas. And that doesn't count the battery storage. Before we started going down this path with renewables, we had no problem with power generation at all. We had base load power, which for people who don't understand that, that's your coal, that's your nuclear, and that's your gas power. They were operating just fine. All we needed was a little bit of quick ramping gas generation to take care of the peak loads. And there was absolutely zero reason to have any wind or solar power whatsoever. But we started down this path in around 2005 to 2007, primarily in the wind field, but recently because of the solar subsidies, we've seen a large pivot towards solar. But if you look at the electric rates on the EIA since 2005,